somebody that's already dead? How are we gonna kill somebody that's already dead?
It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
our brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are. Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better
8,
not.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Just when you thought it was safe to not be on Twitch, you go back on Twitch and then you get to see us. Not just the three of us tonight, though. Oh, no. There's actually four of us tonight on Tangents. Welcome to another exciting episode of whatever the hell this is we're going to do tonight. I don't even know. I'm Andrew. With it tonight is, to my right is Jeff. Thanks for coming in tonight, sir. We also
Hello,
have-
thank you for having me.
Below me, sitting on my lap, is Justin. How's it going, buddy?
It goes. How are you?
And breathing. And, of course, in the lower right-hand corner, the Alice to my Cindy, Das Kreestof. I don't know what the hell that meant. That sounded really kind of weird.
I don't know what that means either.
Oh, I'm uncomfortable now. So how's everybody else?
I feel like it was a mix before. I'm just struggling to find my force. So
You just roll with it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's probably for the best, really. So yeah, welcome. This is a show that we yammer on about whatever music news and stuff like that we might come across, what we're doing, what's new and exciting in our worlds, that kind of thing. Basically, just what we would normally be doing anyway if there wasn't a pandemic going on.
yeah,
Just with
this is what we do. When we're together, we just talk about music here for
and
hours.
everybody
The way other
fucking
people
hates
talk
us.
about sports.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So yeah, that's what's new. That's what this show is all about. So let's get off track here. So I got a bunch of old Electrics effects modules for a Steel, and they all just arrived today, and I just put them into a rack. I haven't tried them yet. Like I turned them on, they all power on at least. Well, that's a good sign. So I have the Filter Factory, the Mo effects, and the what the hell's that other one called? The Warp Factory, I think it's called. So I'm ready to make some 90s techno, because if you go on YouTube and look these things up, the only videos you can find on it are like these Canadian like techno DJs that they obviously Electrics made this video, and it's very 90s VHS quality, and they're like, this is great, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah. If you see an emu orbit on top of it, then you know.
Oh my god! I need one of them because it matches, because they're all kind of that vaguely garish colors and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be sexy times. So yeah. So that's what's new in my world. I did Synthfest last week, and that was fun. I was only supposed to do an hour, but ended up doing 2 hours because the other guy had a root canal that he had to go get taken care of instead. Which, like, please, you got to learn to suffer for your art, people. Come on.
Synthesizers sound way better than
Yeah,
that.
right. So I did that.
Put your suffering in your art.
Yeah, exactly. Feel the pain while you're noodling with the synthesizer. That's what I say.
I mean, I guess that will kill you, but dying on stream has probably already been done.
Good,
So,
we'll
all
probably
right.
get some subscribers that way. Like and subscribe
Yeah.
if you like.
I don't know what you do with them, though.
Well, maybe you might get like a payout that might help pay for the expenses
I do think I would get more subscribers if I promised to die on stream.
every week, and then disappoint them.
Yeah. Just like
Just don't say
JD.
when.
Yeah.
Just
Well, what you can
Eventually.
you know how they have like on some of the streams they have the little bars for like the goals that they want.
Yep.
You can have like a death goal, and it's like, when I get this
Yeah.
many subscribers, I will die. But then every week you
Yeah.
just add 5 more.
Just
I'll
die.
die.
No,
I'd
I would. Just die. No, I would.
I swear I'll die. That kind of thing. So, yeah. So that's so I did that, and then I got invited to play a synth festival on 420.
Nice. Okay. Nice. Okay.
So it's called Safety Fest. Apparently that's a weed term or something. I don't know. I'm playing. I like the 420 slot was open, but I chose the 320 slot because I don't really do the stuff very much. So I figured that's a good spot for that. So I'm gonna do like an hour long. I might just do like a modular, stoner noodle or something like that. I'm not sure yet. I'll bust out the pipe again because everyone likes the Soma pipe.
You're hitting
Oh,
that
thing
pipe.
is
You're hitting that pipe, man.
Oh, I hit the pipe a lot last time. People were digging it. The dumb jokes. So yeah, that was my week. What's going on in Jeff's week?
It's been a really exciting week here. I got floors in my studio, so
everything
is all torn apart. I guess there technically were floors beforehand.
here.
We didn't just like build a floor. We didn't just like build a floor. So it's a big echo box. And everything's torn apart. And yeah, that's kind of it. So I'm kind of like hobgoblin together for the night. But I've been working on getting this sort of like full setup down here that has soundproofing and some video stuff and some video going on for us. I'm pretty excited about that. It's not visible, but I've got a projector here, and then I have my stream stuff. I've got it set up so that I can do like an IZ overlay on it, which has been a really fun contraption. And then I don't know, some sort of like really very strange turn of events. I inherited this sort of early 80s Sony PVM. And it has a kind of a connection on it that I don't actually know what it is. So I've got to figure this out. It's got 3 holes in the back of it that say RGB, and they look about the size of headphone holes. I think it's like some professional television connection from 1,000 years ago. And so I'm working on turning that into like a permanent oscilloscope, display to be just like part of the visual clutter just around here. That's kind of my world.
That's cool. And you did you're doing the sequel to RPM right now, right? You're doing the REM.
REM, yeah. So I did that. I did hand in my first track for that, my March track, which was a lot of fun to do. I did that one super differently. So that one was done on the Deluge, and then recorded onto a tape studio. And just kind of messed with and wrecked a bit to give it kind of like an underwater feel. But that was fun. They had a pretty good turnout, I think, for the first month too.
Awesome. Yeah, another member of the Deluge fam. Fuck yeah.
Yep.
There's so many of us.
Fun box.
The numbers grow. Information trade. Johnny just got one last week.
Mm-hmm.
Got the designer label, and because he just had a kid. And he can't really work on the music very much, so now he has that, and he just brings that into the nursery. And he's been digging it so far. He's really liking it, and I mean, I love mine. Obviously, I can't fucking not do anything without it. It's my cuddle baby. It's the only thing that matters in my life. I'm sad.
It's super handy. I like to just. I mean, it's great because like I can sit up if I want to go hang out with my wife or be upstairs or something like my studio's in our basement. You can just grab it and run with it, and it is pretty cool that you can kind of do anything with it.
Absolutely. I mean, when I'm doing live streams, 90% of the time, if anything, it is the main clock and for everything, if not sequencing stuff and everything like that too. It's one of the most, and I last RPM challenge, I used that and the peak and the Hydra and made an entire album with that. That's all I used.
Yeah.
That was great. So fuck yeah. So
Deluge.
Justin, what are you doing? What's going on down there?
Well, it's been a busy week. Not a lot of music stuff. Getting ready to start pre-mixing some Still Planet stuff because I think I'm kind of done-ish. But now I'm in that really painful stage of stemming and mixing, hating my life. But we'll see how that goes. Still messing with the iridium, and that thing from a sound perspective is just so much fun. Like I could waste my life just messing around with that thing. Yeah, I had a few setbacks with Studio One, open to take it with PreSonus. There's some weird MIDI stuff going on with this. And I discovered it with some of my old gear in the show. I think I mentioned in the show my old Roland. And it wasn't note on, note off. Play just fine. I could play as soon as I started the sequencer. It went totally banana pants. So I figured out by looking at the MIDI filters that when you start the sequencer, it sends a bunch of random. I don't know what it's sending, and I don't know what it's sending. It blows up the Waldorf. It blows up the Waldorf ST. Like it just loses. Not that I'm terribly surprised that it blows up the Waldorf device, but I mean I love Waldorf, but sometimes I get it. So I don't know. So we'll see what they have to say. About that. SOL with that. Yeah, I mean it works. Yeah, I mean it works fine. So I know it's not a repo. It's not. I mean it's not a MIDI. It's not a MIDI thing. So.
Definitely some Studio Ones. But yeah, I use Studio One, but I've not sequenced anything outside of it because I decided to really sit down and buck down and use it with the last RPM challenge. But I did all of the last RPM challenge right in the box, so I didn't go out at all. Yeah. It's surprising because pretty much all my sort of current stuff was like no problem at all. I would hunt down Waldorf, but I feel like it's useless exercise. So. They're hit or miss with their support. Sometimes they're just like, I don't know, and that's pretty much what you get.
Yeah, and I doubt I'm going to get a firmware update. For me, I don't think I'm that important. So.
Well, you are. You bought the game off of them.
Right.
Like 12 people that did, so that's important.
Yeah. I have a string machine addiction. It's a problem.
Oh no, I love the string machine. You know me and the crappy ass strings. So it's easier than
Right.
Kreestof, what's new in your world?
Well, first I want to say that Jeff buried one of the things that he's working on, which is he's been building soundproofing for his studio. Nice wood jobs, and he should have given that credit. So, when you buy those things, they cost a tremendous amount. They cost a tremendous amount. So for just a little bit of raw material, like his fully stocked wood,
probably not a good financial trade in the end.
Well, but he already has like a wood shop set up. Like it's not, so it's not a huge ordeal for him to make it. So make it. Yeah. So he's got that. Anyway, so for me, Thursdays, my stream, and for April Fools, I told everybody that I was going to break one of my rules of my stream. And I was going to play this band that I have just completely forbidden, will never play. And so then as I did my joke, I wasn't going to actually play the song. So I made my own. So I have my own Poor Man's Deluge, which is an app called. So I made my own cover of this song in Caustic, and I played it. And so. Caustic I can't recommend highly enough. It works for Android and iOS. It's free for Android unless you want to save. And it's $10, and it's the best $10 I've ever spent. And it has all these synths that I don't have anywhere else. Like it has a weird generative synthesizer where you put in a mathematical equation and it generates tones based on that. It's basically a reason. So it has subtractive synths. It has two subtractive synths. It's got an FM operators, which is operators. It's on my phone. It's on my phone. It's like a better music studio than I had when I first started. For like the first 5 years. It's kind of like it's better than a Fairlight. It's better than a Fairlight, and it's in my pocket. I don't. Yeah, and I always have my phone with me. I always have my phone with me. I have Deluge with me. I have Deluge with me, so I don't have to worry about losing Deluge. I have it with me everywhere. So I love this thing. It's great. It's great. And also now when you use it, you can use it on a PC for free, plus saving. And so I often will bump songs, like take my phone and like I want to use a keyboard and mouse, and I'll switch it on my computer. But there's one thing that doesn't work, which is when you're doing on your phone, you can use your phone's synthesizer to make samples. I think it's called vocality. So I had it saying this shit will fuck you up. And then because I needed that to loop it to say this shit. And so I just made those samples in the drum machine for this thing, and then I finished that and I played it. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to play the band, and I didn't. And I wasn't the satisfaction of playing like a short clip of them. So I did.
It was pretty convincing.
It was. I mean, at first I thought it was, and I was going to like text you my eyes rolling at you. Because I really hate comic crap. Like I've never liked them.
Yep. And I fooled a lot of people with my April Fool's joke. They thought I was going to do it and sell out and have no values.
You showed them a thing or two about your values.
So but anyway, still, I made something. Yay! Because I didn't really make anything. Yeah. High five.
There it is.
Yeah.
Keep making stuff.
Yeah.
I'll put out your album.
Yeah.
I'm a whore like that.
I like
that's also used caustic before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Your storm song that you made over the summer. During that, was that a hurricane or a tsunami?
If you were in Florida, it was a hurricane. By the time it got to New York, it was a tropical storm.
Yes.
But it did more damage here than Hurricane Sandy did. If you don't count the flooding, because the flooding is what really caused so much damage in Sandy. So Sandy is still worse. But for number of houses that lost power and the amount of trees that went down, Isaiah was worse. Quite destructive this summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
when
I wrote that song and it was good.
Yeah, so I wrote a song. So I went out to my car, which because that had air conditioning, because I didn't have power or water. So I wrote I wrote a song called "Fuck the Storm" on my phone.
So are you going to get the generator converter? Because I know you have a Prius as well, Kreestof.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I live in a condo, so I can't really.
Why not? I mean, like it's an inverter that you get for your car.
Oh, I have an inverter in my car that I can run. I can charge my phone on it.
You can charge your phone on it. I mean, if you get the one with the battery contact and you put it on the lithium-ion battery in the trunk.
Okay.
Then you can power a bit more than your phone. You can fire up your coffee maker and a TV.
Well, the main thing that I want to run when I lose power for days is I want to run my refrigerator so I don't lose all my food. And there's no way for me to get a cord from my condo parking lot to my house without violating a tunnel.
Okay, that's true.
That's why you need to have a house.
Yeah.
Come on, can't you just staple that wire there to the?
I can, but the other thing is, around here, I know my neighbors will say, "Oh, he's got power," and I'll just lose power, and then I'll find it's powering their refrigerator.
I mean, if I was able to find that powered the highway sign in Kentucky, that was just like a very long extension cord plugged into the wall.
Yeah.
I was really drunk. You too can find the power.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got some news items this week. Some exciting things going on. Actually, not really. Some really stupid things I found. It's been kind of a slow news week until like
gear slots.
Days. Yeah. Well, I mean that's just like amazing, right? We can start with that one if you want to.
I just think it's the dumbest one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So Gear Sluts, the artist formerly known of, has changed their name to Gear Space.
Because they had to capitalize on the nostalgia of MySpace and success.
Yes.
Nice.
However, it's a lot easier to get to through your firewall at work now than it was before.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's. Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea of a term like slut, if it is sexist or not, is really more of a personal thing, in my opinion, because I don't have a problem with that word. I don't think it's sexist. I mean, be proud of who you are.
I think it also depends how you say it.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between slut and slut.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I can see their angle though. I mean, trying to distance himself from kind of frat boy humor a little. I get it.
Well, it's also like one of it's also a huge resource and stuff like that for musicians and everything like that. So maybe like professionalism. I can see
that's a big one for me. I've worked in like marketing and creative jobs for a long time, and we've had like in-house studios and things like that, and I have never felt particularly comfortable when somebody's looking for some piece of information about this piece of equipment or that piece of equipment in sort of like the context of an office, being like, hey, go check out Gear Sluts. That never felt great. And then about 3/4 of the time when you go check out Gear Sluts to them like that, and they'd go, what? And then they go and they try to look it up, and they go, I couldn't get it to come up, and then like here comes the IT dude like walking down the hall. It's like, excuse me,
Yeah, right.
What are you trying to do here in the office?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was going to start a site called Synth Gigolos, but I don't think it's going to... I think it's going to fall about as flat as that joke did. Thank you very much.
You need to start synth juggalos.
That's exactly where my head went.
Man.
You said Gigolo, and I immediately went to ICP.
You immediately went to Red Pop and
because magnets,
right? How do they work? A friend of mine actually shot one of those like big Juggalo events. He was a photographer. He didn't mean to actually like shoot them, but he went. I can't remember what those are called. The Gathering of the Juggalos or whatever they're called.
Gathering, yeah.
And he went down and he did a whole photo like thing for like the New York Times or something like that. It was just the weirdest thing ever.
Is it like kind of trailer park 90s Burning Man?
That sounds a couple steps above what it was, yeah.
I want to fully admit that I am very ignorant to this culture, and maybe it's the best thing ever, but I like everything that I have seen is just that's what it seems like to me, but I could be very off.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. I don't even know an ICP song.
Me neither, but I've heard a few of them, and there's not a lot of music that I'm willing to say is just like bad. I'm really willing to say, I don't think it's for me, or it's kind of boring or repetitive. Man, it was trash. It was like grade A prime cut trash.
Yeah, I hate most music, so that's makes sense to me. I don't know. But anyway, rest in peace, Gear Sluts. Welcome to the world, Gear Space.
Thank you for breaking all of my bookmarks.
Right?
I think they said they were going to maintain it. They're going to do some sort of like a permanent redirect on it. So everything that you've had should maintain, which makes sense from an SEO perspective. Like they don't want to lose everything that they've got and try to port it over.
Much.
Google would. Yeah.
So they're going to call it like the space for gear instead of like the space for friends, because that's what MySpace's tagline was. And
I really do hope it is Gear Space for gear.
Yeah, right.
And then a picture of Tom.
I was just about to say, I hope Tom is the only person your first like when you joined. It's like Tom is always there. Poor Tom. I wonder what he's doing nowadays.
Who, Tom?
He's crying himself to sleep on a bed made of money,
swimming in hundreds.
He sleeps in his Chevy Chevette outside of Zuckerberg's house.
Did you see that Zuckerberg was one of the people whose identity got exposed in the Facebook identity theft?
I didn't see that.
I was reading about it today.
That's poetic justice right there, though.
And I saw it in an article on 9 to 5 Mac, and the picture they used was him like standing in front of a sign that discusses like Facebook and security. I'm like, that was smooth. That's how you do it right.
Oh.
And his like group memberships were all about like squirrels wearing underwear.
Probably. Do you want me to take a picture of Facebook headquarters? I'm going to be out in Northern California next week.
No, I don't want to wind up on a list.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Apparently they have a giant like thumb statue.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
yep.
I can make some rude suggestions
I know
about
there's
that.
a security guard right next to it though, so you can't pee or anything like that.
Turn it upside down.
Yeah, right. Boo. Yeah. So, do you want to put do you want to be the link meister, Kreestof?
All right. So which one do you want me to put up?
That was the Gear Sluts becoming Gear Space. A space for gear. That way folks can read about that if they want to before we move on to weirder news. There was some weird stuff that came out the past couple weeks. Thank God. The one thing I found was I don't even know how to pronounce this. Mixtape. That's the best way I can put it. Mixtape. It is a synthesizer that is in the same form factor as a cassette. And you can tweak the little, what the hell are those things called? You remember you had to put the pencil in to adjust your tape?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the knobs. And the thing kind of looks a little bit like Megatron took a shit on your Walkman. it's really cute, but it's a it has like touch sensitive keys on it and everything, so it's a full blown little synthesizer.
Yeah, and it's got surface mount LEDs.
Yep, and it's a granular sampler. But it doesn't have samples. So it and what I'm reading here is it uses a mathematically generated byte beat, which creates complex structures for cutting and arranging, but fiddling with things. And it does this all on its own. So every time you play with it, it's not going to sound the same. So it's not like something you can program, but it's just like something that is just like you just bust this thing out when you need a noisemaker, I'm guessing.
I found myself listening to the demo. Like I didn't think I would make it all the way through, but because it's kind of like audio psilocybin, but it's great.
Yeah, it sounds really neat.
Looks like I've noticed a trend, and I want to say probably modulars had influence on this, but that company Basel, I think they're a Czech company, and they make those little samplers. This sort of device for the sake of art, and I guess like Teenage Engineering is kind of that way. You've got these people making things that are sort of pieces of art in and of themselves, or regardless of what they actually do, and I think that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. It's like €70, so it's probably like $85 or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants one, but most of me realizes that I'll play with it for a day and then it will sit next to the like OPZ. Speaking of Teenage Engineering,
you could busk with it. Just get like like a Bluetooth speaker and.
After my second vaccination, I'm totally gonna start busking with the Soma pipe. That's what I'm gonna use.
There's something really comical to me about the idea of I have, because like I said, I've just been rearranging everything. So like I have this gigantic amplifier under my desk here that I keep accidentally kicking. It's one of those gigantic Roland KC990s, the one with like the two enormous speakers in it.
I have one right here.
It's a very funny idea to me to have somebody out there busking with this thing that's like the size of a television remote control through an enormous fuck off amplifier just at catastrophically loud volumes. I'm very into this. I think you should do it.
I think this is an idea whose time has come.
Oh, yeah, when the police show up, you go, "It's just a prank, bro. It's for YouTube," and you just it's a get out of jail free card. I think
I'm gonna do it in the mean streets of Westlake, Ohio, too.
Yep. Just make sure you're white, because otherwise they will shoot you.
Yeah, right.
There's tons of buskers in Chicago. I don't know if they have to have licenses or what, but
I think
you're welcome to come here.
They have to have like a busker ID, I think it's what it's called.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of good blues players that hang out. It's kind of interesting.
That's because they went there to be jazz musicians, and
Yeah.
So
I wonder if they have anything like that in DC.
In DC,
like a busker's license.
DC. Mm-hmm.
I know they have buskers. I mean the license, because the buskers in DC are everyone there's a couple every once in a while you'll pop into like some of the metro stations where there's one that actually has like heard of a song before, but a lot of them are remarkably poor.
Yeah. They're just like random. It's like they're I think what they're doing is, I think that what happened is in the busker scene there was a huge, and in DC especially, there was a huge explosion of Yoko Ono covers, and so a lot of them are just doing Yoko Ono covers in DC to this day.
Yeah, I used to live in DC, and I recall that.
You recall the Yoko Ono explosion in the busker scene?
Well, no, it was pre that. I think, they were still doing other stuff, but I think they were doing like 20th century composition stuff. No, but you get that. I lived off the Green Line. I didn't get as much of that, but if you're on the Red Line, I'm sure you got
I was on the Red Line. Yeah, I lived like between and a couple things up there, and I'd go down the Red Line and ride it down, and there would be somebody down there with like, I don't know, a guitar with 3 strings and a guy with a tin can, and they tuned the strings last week or so, and that's probably good enough.
I think maybe I should busker just like covers of 4 minutes and 22 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, bust out some John Cage.
Yeah.
Welcome to my treated piano, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I like it. I think you should do it.
It'll keep me in trouble. So more weirdness. My favorite weird synth manufacturer, Soma. I love these guys. Let me tell you. They just released a thing called the Cosmos, which is a kind of a weird take on the Frippertronics tape loop method kind of thing, but like times 12. And if you watch the videos for this thing, is just like I can't even really explain what it's doing. And I think that's the beauty of Soma, is that this is a company that makes things that are so weird and random. And they do weird and random things. The Lyra 8 is beautiful and chaos. The drum machine that they put out, I can't remember what it's called, is just
Pulsar 23.
Yeah, the Pulsar 23 is also just WTF mofos.
I want that thing so much, but it's so expensive. I think, Kreestof, I think I sent you something about this the other day. It was a guy who was playing it, and he had hooked, because it's got, for anybody who isn't aware of this contraption, instead of having patch points on it, it has patch posts, I guess, is the best way to think about them. It comes with alligator clips, or you can touch them with your fingers or whatever. So anyway, this dude was playing this thing, and he had some, he had a pretty interesting drum loop going on it, and he had hitched one of the alligator clips to like a meat cleaver. And the meat cleaver he was using to slam into a pickle that was on a metal tray. And so as he's playing this thing, I don't know if you ever thought about what a meat cleaver's signal, electrical signal through in a pickle on a metal tray is. But let me tell you, it ain't great, number one. And it's something that sticks with you. It was pretty intense.
Yeah. That's what, I mean, this is like, Vlad Kramer is the guy who designs all their stuff, and that dude is just like, he is out of this fucking world, right? He comes up with like this weird stuff, and then he puts it out, and then we buy it, of course. But like this thing is just like, I can see this being really big with like the ASMR people and stuff like that, because it sounds like you can do a lot of interesting like stereophonic kind of style filtering and effects and everything like that. But it's just kind of a weird machine. And I love Soma because they are weird. I have 2 Soma items, and the weirdest things they made, which is this guy here, the Quantum Ocean, which I still have no idea what the fuck it does. All I know is that
does it have just one knob on it?
It has one knob on it, and 4 finger points, and a headphone jack, and a power switch. And you listen to white noise through it, and you put your fingers on it, and you adjust the white noise by thinking. And then you can have a buddy sit across from you and also adjust it with what he's thinking.
Jesus Christ.
So it's a musical Ouija.
Totally. I've murdered 16 people with this thing so far from 12,000 miles away. And it comes with a manifesto of how shamanistic audio techniques and like little exercises to do with this thing and everything like that. It's so high.
I'm deeply interested in this. This is not one of their things that I'm aware of. So does it actually seem to respond when you
well, maybe
think?
It does. I don't know, because like I'm listening to it through headphones, and you go and you kind of like get yourself into like this little like meditative style state, and then you start like breathing and stuff like that, and then you start thinking of certain things. And I don't know if it's just my ears playing tricks on me, or if something is being changed, or what.
Sounds like we need some science,
I think
man.
we need
to
to
check this thing.
what I need to do is I think I need to run it through the oscilloscope on the modular and zoom in nicely so I can see those things, and then start thinking, bubblegum or whatever.
Also record it so you can examine it. Did it really change, or was it perceptual?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other device
Yeah.
is, of course, the best thing that Soma put out. The motherfucking pipe.
The infamous pipe.
Yep. By the way, the other thing, it has a manual that's a manifesto. I just want to remind people, if you publish anything with the word manifesto in it, you're probably going to wind up on a list.
Oh no!
The show is going to be on a list somewhere.
Is it a good list, or?
It's like you're always going to get stopped at security when you get on board a plane.
You might get a visit from some guys.
Don't be like me.
So don't tell Jack Dangers. I'm sure he's been dealing with that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the pipe is also another
Well,
weird
he's got
instrument.
dangers in his name. You don't want to get on a plane with dangers.
I know, right?
I know, it's a double
You do. But yeah, Soma, weird company, Russian. And if you get a chance to watch their videos, watch the videos on there, especially if it's like they're just explaining things, because it makes it even more shit bonkers. And they're already kind of shit bonkers anyway. But like when Vlad starts describing things, and he talks very slowly about his things he's describing, and you're just. What?
Did you watch the vocal demo they did? I mean, it's kind of a looper. I mean, I dig Frippatronics. The Fripp's solo album Exposure, which is probably one of my favorite things he did, which is all just like tape loop guitar weirdness. But in general, like modern loopers don't really interest me a lot. I get they have applications, and I've heard people do cool stuff, but it's not really my bag. But this thing is actually appealing. I mean, it's really crazy. The fact that it is, pseudo-random in a way. I mean, it's not. I'm sure it's deterministic on some level, but it's crazy. It sounds so good.
And that's the thing. It sounds really, really nice.
Do you think it would be good for Krell patches?
Oh, absolutely. I think you could just do an entire Krell patch.
Yeah, because the original Forbidden Planet, I think part of it was using tape delays and tape loops and manipulation that way. Yeah.
I have the soundtrack to that on vinyl, which is just like it's great just to put on and just like sit in a corner and cry. But yeah, I can totally see like running a Krell patch into this thing and just making it even weirder. I would probably even sidechain this thing and put it on its own channel, and possibly, like, knowing me, I would probably just pan the shit out of it, because that's what I do. Daddy, like,
you're the king of panning.
But it's not that expensive considering.
What is the MSRP on that thing?
Pulling up right now, it's 480 euros. So I mean, it's not cheap, but I mean, it's a lot less expensive than, like, some things that do similar kind of stuff, I think. But let's face it, none of it really does anything similar.
The internet tells me that's $564 US dollars.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's like a quarter of the price of the Pulsar 23.
Yeah. But the Pulsar 23 is just so cool. So God, weird.
I like the sound of the synth on the Pulsar 23, which isn't the thing that's supposed to be important on it, but I love the sound of it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think and this is true of the Lyra 8 too, for me, is I am surprised at the frequency that I hear something come out of it that I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. Whereas, you hear a lot of those, or you see people doing some kind of a demo, and I don't know, like, this patch is kind of okay, and you feel like it's sort of like it shows off the chorus on the device well, or something like that. It's almost like a feature demo for the patch. But by and large, a lot of them aren't that interesting or musical. But that's the thing that has struck me so much about a lot of this Soma gear, is that what you hear coming out of it, despite how absolutely just bonkers a lot of the gear is, it has this really strong propensity either to just produce very musical, interesting sounding stuff, or people are so inspired by it that they're just sort of naturally doing that. But I haven't heard that from a lot of other stuff. I think some of like the Moog semi-modular stuff I've heard. I feel like the subharmonicon is one of those things. Like, everything that comes out of it is just interesting and good, and like anybody who sits down and messes with it for 5 minutes can make something great out of it. But the Soma stuff seems to have some of the same, I don't know, some of that same vibe.
I feel that
it's cool.
I feel that a lot of that is kind of like the interface's fault in a way, because we're starting to step more and more into non-traditional interfacing with stuff and everything like that. And I think that helps people move beyond the keyboard, for want of a better term, because the keyboard is rather daunting. And I like, it was the argument that the worst thing that they ever did with the synthesizer was put a keyboard onto it, because then that just made it accessible to keyboardists. And I think there is a point to that in a way, because I'm a shit keyboard player.
Yeah.
And having those.
That was Todd Barton and Don Buchla.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that was like the crux of the conversation around the original Buchla music easel, and the whole everything there was, it was, don't put a keyboard on it, put something else weird on it. Give me a Thunderbird.
Expressive, put something that you can express.
Yeah. I think the workflow is key too, right? I mean, the standard East Coast workflow, left to right. I mean, that's so incredibly prevalent, and it really has warped my mind, for sure.
Yeah, and so then you get like this weird Soma shit that comes out, and it's just like, what? I love that. First of all, I love that the Lyra 8 now comes in like hot pink and bright orange. Although I totally want to get the mint one because it just looks like some piece of World War II era. Like, and it looks so Soviet. It's just like, oh fuck yeah! I just wish I just had some big bullets on the side of it or something like that.
You have like a minty green Polyvox fantasy.
Oh, it's I don't know why, but that's sexy to me.
It looks like something if Heinbach came out and said, like, I uncovered this under a grain silo that I was digging under last week,
gear.
Just because that's what I was doing. Like, you would totally buy it that he found it under the grain silo, and it was Russian, and there it was.
Because like as a kid, my dad, his hobby was electronics and stuff, so he used to find all this like old shit underneath grain elevators, and he had test equipment out the ass. And he would rebuild all this stuff, and it was all like it was most of this is like pre-solid state, so it was all tube based and everything. And he would go through and redo these things, and then he would sell them at ham fests and stuff like that for like ham radio operators. But he would collect this stuff and just redo it all, and so like that's what I grew up with. Like some kids, like they grow up with like a wood shop or something like that in the garage, or a car repairing, or just a passed out drunk father or something like that. And I had like electronics crap everywhere as a kid. So that's kind of where my life that's kind of influenced me a little bit, I think. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so in New York, they used to have a festival for circuit bending called Bendfest. And near there had this guy who performed there, and he was amazing. And I can't remember the name of his project right now. But he would sell devices, and he sold a bass synthesizer that was built inside an ammunition box.
Nice.
I think that you would love that.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love that idea.
That's crazy.
And it was a really good droney bass sound. Not like a crappy 303. It had real like meat to it.
That reminds me of the dude at NobCon, Justin, that makes a modular synthesizer out of cat food cans and shit.
Oh, that guy.
Modular for the people.
Yeah, that guy was fantastic. Yeah. He definitely looked like one of those like Goa hippies, but he's making like ultra low life tech out of cat tins. I don't know. Just amazing guy.
It's like he shows up and he has his modular synth on a shoulder strap, and this thing like goes down to the floor, and it's literally like old cans of beans and shit like that. And he just like solders all this shit together, and he has this huge modular rig that looks like garbage, and at times sounds like garbage too, but he's always like futzing with it because there's always some like connection that's loose or something like that, and he has to go and resolder it real quick or something like that. But it's just nuts.
It sounds like Look Mom No Computer.
Yeah, kinda.
Oh yeah.
Where he made a synthesizer and a Red Bull can.
Yeah, pretty much.
He has been on fire lately.
Oh, yeah. Look Mom No Computer. Yeah, he's getting a lot of Patreons, so he's doing.
Yeah, I love that guy. I love his life.
That horrifying Furby contraption that he's got.
Furby organ?
Cosmo.
Oh, yeah, Cosmo. Yeah.
And now he's got Cosmo writing on some sort of like XY neon light plotter. Like, it is a matter of time until Cosmo becomes self-aware and just like takes over, and just one day Cosmo is the one running the channel. But he's gonna push it too far one day, and his synthesizers are gonna take over. He's building the T1000.
Which is, especially when he was doing the thing with the flamethrower that was coming out of the modular stuff.
Yes,
that was pretty amazing. Yeah,
that guy's great.
It's a matter of time before that becomes Skynet.
Yeah, it's for sure not going to be Facebook or Microsoft or Google or Watson or any of these companies that are actually trying to go for it. It's actually just going to be spontaneously that some 1,000 oscillator drone that he's made just wakes up and it's, well, I guess I'm here now, and that's
it's going to be that Bath is going to like fire this thing up, and it's going to be an AI made out of Furbies, and we're all going to die.
Yeah. I think the secret weapon is that Sega Mega Drive that he has strapped to the muzzler. I think that's good stuff.
I can think of worse ways to go.
Yeah, I for one welcome our Furby overlords.
Yeah.
Look, so Furby just came up like 3 times, and I learned about something with Furbies a while ago, and this is unrelated to synthesizers, but everybody in the world is going to share my pain now, so you're welcome. There's an entire subculture of people who are dedicated to making things that are called long Furbies.
Long Furbies?
Long Furby. And I can hear the collective clatter of everybody who's watching us right now, like going, what is a long Furby? So if you go to Google and you type in long Furby.
Wow, those are disturbing as fuck.
Boy, oh boy, you in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
It's not inappropriate. It's exceedingly weird. It is exceedingly weird, but there is nothing that it certainly will set off less flags with your work computer than gearsluts.com will, just to keep it relevant. But it is the weirdest thing.
There's a nice article about it.
Is this like the human centipede
It's kind of the
situation?
human centipede of Furbies.
Oh my god.
I'm revolted yet strangely aroused.
Yeah, you just can't look away.
This one has like frog legs.
It's very creative. It's exactly the right kind of wrong.
This one's the best.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Look, it has teeth.
Is there a Klaus Nomi long Furby?
Oh my god.
Klaus Nomi. Klaus Furby. I love it.
Wow, long Furby. God. We can have an entire episode just on, I kind of want to throw up now.
You could do an entire season on long Furby. Can you imagine if you got long Furby together with the Gathering of the Juggalos? Just like what you'd have.
Thank you for writing my nightmares.
I know, right?
And look, Mom No Computer was there for some reason. I don't know why, but he's there.
Wow. So long Furbies. Yeah, so there we go.
Yep. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
To everybody who now knows about
Jeff,
long
thanks
Furby.
for being on the show. We're never letting you on again. Let's just go ahead and
thank you.
Put you back over here to 3 view. Fuck that guy. No.
Thank you for joining us for the final episode of Tension.
We're all going to get hate mail from the long Furby people.
So. I love hate mail.
Then the Juggalos are going to come to kill everybody who said anything bad about them.
Right? Like they do.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure we did. We just maybe questioned the band that they may or may not worship.
That's enough.
And I, for one, welcome the sweet release of death.
Yeah.
So our next news story is the Moog Turnkey Eurorack kits. So those are kind of slick. So you can now spend even more money on Moog, and get some cool shit because Moog is awesome.
Yeah, they're doing something right here, man. This is their first sort of foray into marketing in any sort of sensible way, other than to just actual gearheads who already know their stuff is
great. Like Moogfest was like a thing that they were doing too.
They hired
sure, but I can see this. Go ahead.
Oh, they hired a European agency to do that marketing, which is like a big thing for them.
I can see this. But let's talk about this a little bit. So they've never done like the kit thing before. This is new. And this is kind of it's a little bit of a big deal, and I'm a little bit miffed about it because I own a whole bunch of mommies, as I call them. Just now, I decided now that they're called mommies. So I have 2 Mother 32s, a DFAM, and a Subharmonicon, and I have this. I literally have a 3-tier rack, then I have a 2-tier rack that I flipped upside down and mounted on there so I can make 4 tiers. Of course, I can buy a 4-tier rack now because they have those out. But for the longest time, I even have like a few of their empty skiffs and stuff like that I have over there. If I want to build like a little effects rig or something like that. But this is the first time where they're doing these little kits, and these kits come with either a Mother 32 and a DFAM, or a DFAM and a subharmonicon. So you get either like their basic subtractive synth with their drummer from another mother drum synthesizer, or their subharmonicon, which is their crazy 3 oscillator sequence powerhouse machine with the drummer from another mother. And it comes with a little rack kit, and it comes with a little place to hang your cables, and it comes with a little mixer. I want the little mixer, but they're not going to sell them separately. That makes me sad.
The mixer is also the biggest missing piece of equipment for all those things, which is an all-in-one power distributor.
Yes, that too. And that's the other part about it, is that you can power all of it up right there. And that's sexy.
They've made questionable power decisions in the past. Like we talked about the Minotaur recently, and I fished it out of cold storage and put it into my rack. I bought the rack gears for it because I really love it. I know it's a very simple synth, but it really sounds good. And I realized very quickly with my rack mount system, because I have such a small space, because Chicago, that I can't get to the back of it to turn it on and off. I'd have to unplug it, or I'd have to unplug it from the wall, right?
There's no power. There's no power switch on it anyway, Justin.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't get to the back of it to pull it out, so I'd have to pull it from the wall, which is even worse if you can see what my setup looks like.
They have this thing called a power conditioner that you can have a switch on them. You can turn those on.
Well, I did do one better, and I did buy a power conditioner, by the way. But I got a little extension cord with a switch. That's my solution, so I can reach. But that was a weird choice. I mean, to me, I don't know. I like the power accessible and switched.
Yeah. But yeah, so having that power distributor on the little mixer thing is cool, and these are really adorable little kits. You get the weird Moog art posters, of course, because who doesn't like their weird Moog art posters? I have one hanging up right there. They're so trippy. You get a little book on programming your gear. It shows little patch ideas and stuff like that. You get, of course, patch cables and stuff like that. Get a little bag to hold your patch cables, and you get stickers and all this other crazy little stuff. It's a cute little box.
There's a dice game too
I'm seeing this.
that comes with it, which is pretty cool. It's so essentially all of the patches that I don't know if it's all of them, but some number of the patches that they've put into the patch book are compatible with this dice game. So there's sort of a starting point. So you build the patch up to where the book says, and then the dice game is additional sort of connections and some amount of randomness that comes in.
Do you think that they're marketing this towards educational environments? I mean, it seems like it to me. I mean,
maybe. They do a lot with education, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, they have a foundation, which is cool.
They have a Moogzine.
Which you've been to.
I think but that's a good point. Is the education market, as well as just folks that are trying to break into have an interest in modular synthesis but don't know where to begin, because let's face it, it's a rather esoteric subject matter. And having those semi-modulars is pretty handy, and having 2 of those semi-modulars is even handier. And it's interesting that they chose to do the subharmonicon or the DFAM, or the DFAM and the Mother 32, given how different the subharmonicon and the Mother 32 kind of are. Nary those twain shall meet. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of those mothers. I'm a big fan of the mothers. The form factor is really cool. I really like working with them. They're a lot of fun. They're surprisingly powerful for what you're getting too. That's just
they're solid, and they're so good.
Oh God, yeah. I was a bit worried about the subharmonicon, because it looked even more weird to me as far as how the fuck am I going to use this thing? But within 10 minutes, I had it figured out. Now, explaining it to somebody is far more complex than actually playing it.
You're like Charlie Day with the red string everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel like you're like a serial killer in the basement. You're like, so let me tell you about how subharmonics work. So normally, and you have to get into like, it's crazy, but it is a wild device, and it's yes. This is the dance you do when you're playing it, but it's pretty cool. It makes just so much weird, cool ruckus.
It does. It's so much fun. I don't have the speakers turned on.
I was kind of surprised they didn't do a double DFAM kit, to be honest, because I have one of each of them, and I really want to add a second DFAM to it. I'm pretty convinced that I love the subharmonicon. I think it's probably the one that I wind up using the most, but the DFAM is just incredible. I mean, its breadth and range is just nuts, and it is the hardest, like meanest sounding drum synthesizer I have ever heard.
Yeah. I sample it into my analog rhythm. That's what I mostly use it for.
So good.
I use it to make samples for other drum machines. Like, this is how the big boys do it, guys. Try it,
Yeah. It's super good. And I think 2 of them is the right number to have.
Well, 3 if you want hi-hats.
I use my Mother 32
oh, yeah, that's easy
as a hi-hat machine. Yeah. So I've been actually doing this thing where I've been using the Mother 32 to do hi-hats. And I've been doing the rhythm from the Mother 32 played by one of the sequences on the subharmonicon. So I've been giving one of my sequences on it over to doing this sort of like weird syncopated polyrhythmic hi-hat along with the voices from the DFAM, which is a pretty fun way to use it.
I see that totally. That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I mean, the DFAM is just, you're absolutely right. It's grungy. It's gross. It's fun.
Yes.
I miss like seeing the stuff when they're like when they're doing like the engineering track at Moogfest, because I always thought it was fun seeing these people building this stuff and stopping them saying, what does it do? And then like 3 years later it's to market, almost all of them.
Yeah, the Werkstatt, I remember that one.
Yeah, the Werkstatt. Well, they have the subharmonicon, the DFAM, and then the other one was the one they never put out, which was the Brother from Another Mother.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that one?
It was basically a Mother 32, but instead of the keybed switch, the keybed on it, or keybed, I should say, the key sequencer, it was a switch sequencer. It was a bit, actually, no, it was a knob sequencer, so it was a bit more like the DFAM. It's like a combination of the two.
Oh.
And I think that there was a 2 oscillators on it, I think. I can't remember.
I kind of regret never doing the engineering track when we went.
Expensive. I think it was like.
They really were.
Yeah. I miss Moogfest.
Well, maybe they'll announce they're going to put it out, and then Behring will beat them to it.
Right.
For 1/3 the cost.
Totally.
Right.
Hello, Control Alt Del. Sorry, I've looked up at the chat. It's been a hot minute, so. But yeah, I think it was called was it called the Brother from Another Mother, Justin? I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't know. I can't remember, but I do remember it because I remember I always have a secret fantasy of wanting an actual modular, Moog modular. And I'm like, boy, I could really use a step sequencer to endlessly make Berlin style Tangerine Dream knockoff music. But
8-step or 16?
Yep.
Yeah, the Brother from Another Mother. That's what it was. It's single VCO noise mixer ADSR envelope VCF with cutoff and resonance and VGF. VCF EG amount control 8-stage analog step sequencer with control over glide, gate length, and clock rate and 16 patch points.
I wonder why they said it was too similar. Maybe.
I think so. You can get one. Oh, they sold already, but I do see one that was on Reverb that someone sold.
For how much?
That one was $650, so not too bad.
Huh? Yeah, that isn't too bad. That actually, I really I I so infrequently use the sequencers that are built onto any device other than the Deluge. Like I use its sequencer to sequence itself, of course. But I'm so frequently sequencing externally that I actually have found myself really digging the sequence of the DFAM because it's so different. It like the interface on. I mean, it's not nearly as useful, but I sequence almost everything through a Squarp pyramid, and I really have kind of enjoyed the sort of not quite infinite, but very rotatory version of sequencing that you get from the DFAM.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm a person. I usually just clock things out of the Deluge, and then I let whatever built-in sequencer that piece of gear it's clocking to run itself. So like all the I'm pretty comfortable with all the electron gear and stuff like that, and I use a lot of that. So I'll let those sequence themselves because they sequence better than the Deluge does.
Yeah.
I never got into the Squarp pyramid. I never had a chance to play with one. But I did try to like a bunch of other different sequencers, and I hated all of them.
Yes.
What was that one that was like impenetrable? What was that one?
Was that the Kilpatrick one?
Yeah, that's the one.
The Kilpatrick Audio. I can't remember. I did finally sell it though. Thank God. It's
nice.
Gone. I still have the squid though. I'm still trying to get rid of that thing. That's the worst.
The squid.
The squid's the worst.
Yeah, I remember halfway falling asleep at their presentation at NapCon.
Yeah, rightfully so. But yeah, the Moog stuff is really cool. These turnkey kits are really, really slick. They're a bit spendy, but you are getting what you pay for, and Moog's gear is top of the line, I think.
Yep. And a lot of it tends to hold its value pretty well. So if you decide you get it, you don't really love it. You can usually, I mean, if you're cool with paying $100 or $200 for a year to rent it,
right,
you're usually in pretty good shape because it seems like that's about all they drop.
No, absolutely. I mean, I sold Justin's grandmother.
Wait, what?
I dug her up. No, I'm just kidding. Here, Grandma.
I can actually see it right there.
It's on the. This is the Justin's gear rack. This is your shit. Right. Any now, buddy. Come pick it up.
So it's got to get a jab, man. I'll
I
be
know.
there.
It's memorialized. I haven't. It's just the way you left it. It's like your bedroom.
I gave a little shrine there.
So yeah, Moog stuff is really cool. Yay. More news. Actually, before we do news, a quick word from our sponsors at Ick Studios.
So, you just got your subharmonicon, right?
What's
Andrew?
that?
You just got your
I got it about
subharmonicon,
2
right?
weeks ago, yeah.
All right.
Haven't got a chance to really play with it other than to sit down and mess with it, but I'm probably going to use it for the 420 Stoner stream.
Nice.
One of the things I really enjoyed doing was running it into my Rainmaker modular, which is just like this programmable step delay, where each step you can do something with, like filter or pan or change the all the different kinds of things, twitch it out and stuff like that, and randomize the shit out of it, and it's a lot of fun running it through there. I'm an effects junkie. That's why like a majority of my modular is effects, because it's
got one oscillator, one filter, one VCA, effects.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, if I didn't put the Pittsburgh modular Lifeforms SV1 in there, I'd have just that's my second oscillator.
What was that? What's that crazy module you have? The like Raymond Chandler machine thing? What the heck is that thing?
The Raymond Chandler machine. Do you mean the Telharmonic?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Harmonium. Yeah, that thing is beautiful. It's just it's the model of the first electronic music gear, which used to take up an entire room, in modular format.
Right.
It just sounds so good. And
are you talking about the RCA modular?
I'm talking about the Make Noise Telharmonic.
Okay.
which is just a beautiful sounding oscillator that has. It's almost like an FM in a way. It's a very primitive FM kind of thing where it has like 2 different frequencies that you can like mess around, or 3 different because you also have a noise frequency. And you can do some really interesting things with that. And each of those oscillators have this transformation to them as well. It gets very confusing very quickly, like most modular.
I mean, yeah. Is it based on the harmonium? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's the same.
Cool.
It's the same. It's basically a software version of that, or software version, I should say, like a modular version of it. But you have like the mod points and stuff like that, where you can modulate all the different weird stuff that it couldn't normally do. So yeah. Otherwise, there's an entire row that's just all effects units across the board. I've fallen in love with reverbs and delays. The bigger the better. Anyway. Should we do a giveaway?
Let's see. You can try.
I know, right? Let's see. I haven't seen how many bots are on tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I know one's a real person.
I know one's a
2.
I know 3 people.
We have 2 real users and 1 lurker, and I don't know about the rest.
Blackpool's real.
Okay, let's do a giveaway then.
Control Delete is real.
Yeah.
Silver Point Despair is real.
Absolutely.
That's
so Alex Assimilate is real, but he's probably just lurking.
He's probably just lurking. He lurks on this channel all the time. So
he's not.
So if you're out there listening and you're not lurking right now, we're going to start a contest. It's going to be the same contest that no one won last week because I am not original, and our sponsors like that. Our sponsors are very picky with their stuff and everything like that. So we're going to be giving away the Missile Commands album, Machine Should Think People Should Work, available from your friends at X Studios Cleveland.
I think we need a jingle. Like, I need a button.
Yeah, I know. I think you need to work on that because you're not doing anything else right now.
And I have Missile Commands The Future, which I really like and has one of my favorite songs of the last 15 years on it. So I strongly recommend entering this raffle.
Because if you enter this raffle, then that means we'll give this one away, and then we can give away the future next time. So yeah, the raffle is open. I think for the next 10 minutes, I think is what I programmed it for. So, yeah. So just use the ! raffle in the chat on Twitch. You have to be hanging out. You have to be a fan of the page. So you have to follow us if you're not. And if you are subscribed, you get 2 entries. So that's sexy. So give me money. So we'll let that go. And off that is. Look at that. We have an entry already. So while that's going on, let's continue going on with the news. So something might have happened. Behringer might have donated synthesizers to underprivileged children. Now, Kreestof, you found this story.
Yeah, and I'd followed this before because Ben Jordan had called out on this because Behringer had announced that they were going to give away 1,000 synthesizers last year. And towards the end of the year, Ben Jordan's like, yeah, you guys lied again and you didn't do it. And so Behringer contacted him because he's got a lot of followers on his channel. And they said, the logistics on this are really hard, and we're happy to put you in touch with the people that are working on this. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that, if you're trying to give away synthesizers all around the world, you need to find who can distribute synthesizers in Brazil, who will get, instead of just giving away to a guy in a truck, to actually make sure they get to the right places, it's quite a logistic hurdle. And so he put Ben Jordan in touch with some of these people, and Ben Jordan started to help out with this as well. And it looks like it may have happened, and they upped the synthesizer count from 1,000 to over 1,500. So Behringer's announced it, and now Behringer's got a bad history with PR, but it's quite possibly true.
And this is the SH-101 clone, right? The MS-SO clone.
Yeah. So in their original announcement, they didn't say which synth it was going to be, but it looks like it's the SH-101 clone and a pair of headphones, so people can get started right away if they have electricity.
The question is, did it come with the keytar adjustment attachment?
That was going to be my first thing.
Well, it's funny. I had one and I sold it, and the person I sold it to locally here in Chicago messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you happen to have the keytar handle?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have no idea what I did with it." And I squirreled it away. And then when I moved, I found it, and they came and picked it up. So I'll swell it in as well.
Why'd you sell it?
Why did I sell it?
I'm really excited about that thing coming out.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty darn cool. But in the long run, after moving and thinking about space, I was like, I went through a purge. I went through a mad purge, and it just didn't make the cut. For me, like a device that I can't save patches on, easily. I don't know. It just there was a couple reasons why it fell outside of my sweet spot. If I can't save a patch on you, you better sound badass. That's kind of where I'm at. Working mostly sort of in planned, very contrived composition, which is the space I live in. It doesn't do me a lot of good.
Understandable. I was just curious as to why you got rid of it. So yeah, if this is actually the case, this is really cool.
Yep. And I'm going to say that the SH-101 and the Behringer clone both have my favorite oscillator chip.
It's the CM, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Curtis chip, yeah. So it's the same one that's in the Pro 1 and the Prophet 5, and it's a really flexible oscillator. Although it's only one, but you can use multiple waveforms out of it at the same time.
I will say it does sound really good. And
but I don't remember which filter chip it uses, because I think the SH-101 might have used a Roland filter, and I don't know if they emulated that for the Behringer one. But I don't know if it was a Curtis chip for the filter on that. I just don't. Yeah. I don't have every chip memorized yet.
Why?
I know.
Come on.
This is disappointing.
What do you do?
I'm going to blame the Lipitor. So I hear it affects memory.
Yeah, it sounded gorgeous, and I hope the recipients of it enjoy it. And good for Behringer for doing something, I think, altruistic.
And by the way, I'll say that the SH-101 was Nitzereb's first sequencer synth.
Yes.
So their first synth was the EDP Wasp, which they then found out doesn't have a sequencer, and they were completely hosed, and they'd blown all their money on it. And but eventually they got the SH-101, and that's on all over that Total Age. And it's layered with the DX7. That happened in studio, but they were all written with the SH-101. So it's quite a capable little synth.
Oh man, I played. Do you remember at NobCon that year, Andrew? There was like a lime green one that was there, and I was shocked by the bass on that thing. I mean, a single oscillator sent it. It sounded really good.
It was beefy.
Yeah. For years, it was rumored, or people would just say, like on the internet where everybody lies and say they act like, oh, this is definitely this synth. So they would always say that the bass synth for Sweet Dreams Are Made of These by the Eurythmics was the SH-101, which it is not.
That came out before the SH-101 was around.
But it is a very nice sounding synth. They would also say it's the SH-01, which it's not. I think it might have been the SH-02 that was used on Sweet Dreams.
Nice. Well, 4 minutes left on the drawing for the Missile Command album. It is a download, so we're not shipping it to anybody. I'll just message you a download code, and you'll be ready to. You can download it instantly and rock out to it within minutes. So yeah, Behringer in the news with that. Hopefully, also Behringer's clone, the Poly 6, is now the Poly 8.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
So that's a synth that you can't typically get through other means outside of software right now. Like a lot of the stuff that Behringer puts out, sometimes another company is also making a similar clone of it. And in this case, nobody's made a hardware clone of the Poly 6. Mm-hmm. So there's a old Korg BST. I don't know how accurate it is, but BST clones have gotten a lot better in recent years, and this is a much older clone, so I don't know if they have updated their code base. So this might be your way to go. And this is a synth that people really love.
It's a lovely synth.
It is.
I mean, it really is.
I've used the Poly 6.
Yeah. The 8 voices, I thought that was actually like a pretty good change to it. I mean, depending on how you play, it's funny. The difference between 6 and 8 voices can actually like really matter if you're playing with longer sounds. I mean, like that's enough that you can actually like move into something much closer to more like piano style playing without cutting off the tails of your notes. And I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent about them as a company. I think they've done some sort of like ratty stuff.
They have, but they've also done some good things. So it's
exactly. So I wind up kind of being like, meh. But I think people like to hate on them for reasons that are, I don't know, not always reasonable. And I heard a lot of people being like, "Oh, look at this is innovation," and kind of just like ragging on it. Like, well, actually, 8 voices is probably the right number of voices to have for this synth.
Yeah.
Well, I think they fulfill an important market. I mean, for many people who lost after vintage gear or these types of interfaces, it provides a very cost-effective way to do that. And, it's true. I mean, you're not going to be able to compare them to the build quality of a Moog, or maybe the thoughtfulness of a Sequential. But you know what? It's I still have my DeepMind 12. I'll probably never get rid of it. I think that was a beautiful thing they did. And,
DeepMind is a great sounding piece of gear that's made kind of shittily, but I mean it breaks easily.
Sure.
But just like a lot of the other stuff that I've seen, like when they made their Mother 32 clone with what was that thing called?
Neutron.
Crave.
Oh, Crave. Yeah,
Crave.
So I apologize. Which
the Neutron also features that same oscillator chip, but two of them.
And
I had a Neutron for about a minute. Yeah. Oh, it sounded quite beefy because I had it for about a minute. But I also got rid of it. But, yeah.
Yeah, I have their Model D.
Yeah, I do too.
Which sounds decent. It doesn't stay in tune worth shit,
right.
But I mean, it sounds decent.
Just like the original.
Just like Mom used to make.
Yeah.
But I mean that sound for $300 as opposed to spending X amount of money, and plus I don't have room for
instead of having to spend $5,000.
I don't have room for a mini Moog in here.
I mean, you're not even gonna get your mini Moog serviced for $300.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if this thing dies, you can get another one for less than it would cost to get your mini Moog repaired.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm telling the computer to pick a winner. Silver point to spare. You have won. Congratulations.
Yay, go Silver Point. I hope you love this album.
You do. I worked hard on it many years ago. So keep talking while I give him a quick whisper with the information.
Yeah, or so the Germans would have us believe.
I'm not used to having for like video chats because my life is a video chat for work. I'm not used to having a physical microphone in front of me most of the time. So I went to do my applause and I realized like halfway through that I was about to clap the microphone and that would have been terrible.
A little pop
for everybody. It's great. It's awesome when you're like awkward enough and goofy enough that you even do awkward, weird things like that on a computer. It's something.
Yeah, that's my life. This one awkward mistake after another. It's been fun. So yeah, the Poly 8. I don't know what have they announced a price point on that yet?
No, that's not even going to be released this year.
Yeah, I figured.
They announced that they're going to work on it so that when Korg decides, hey, we should make this thing that we used to make, they'll know, all right, but there's a clone coming to market on it.
Well, what do you make of that?
You are going to have competition. What?
They have so many proof of concepts that sneak around, right? I mean, I saw the Prophet 600 clone they were doing, and a Selena clone, and obviously the UBXA, which I know is caught up in some legal kerfuffle.
Oh yeah, they tried to. I saw that.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, like, what their deal is with that. Like, they're just maybe they're just dipping their toe in the water and saying, "Anybody want to buy this? Any interest?" I don't know. I mean,
well,
because
what
they
they've
don't
done is,
come on.
Instead of just making a synthesizer, what they've done is they've built new factories and a new manufacturing platform, And that was the harder part. And now that they've they're making their own operating system, and I think it's Arduino based or something like that. But anyway, so the firmware is going to be simpler to make, or is it ARM based? But anyway, there are certain hurdles that once you solve it for one polysynth, you've solved it for all your polysynths.
Got it.
You know? And so they've even made a polyphonic aftertouch keyboard, and I don't know what that's going to go into. So it's not, obviously not in the DeepMind, which has a terrible keyboard, but it could be going into the UBXA or whatever it's going to wind up getting called. They've teased that they're going to make a CS80, which would require this to play it correctly, but that also seems like a real nightmare to engineer. But I think once they finish out the UBXA, the Poly 800, which is kind of like the Prophet 5, will be rapidly behind it, because most of the work is already done with all these other developments. I don't know if you guys have ever had Oberheim matrix synthesizers, like the 6, the 12, or the Expander, but setting up the firmware and the electronics for making a matrix modulation system is a nightmare. And when you try to start making one yourself, it's really difficult. But once you make it, you've got that chip. Now you can put it in all the synths. So I think that's kind of where they are, where they're developing this meat infrastructure that once you've got that done, then you just have to change your chips and your filter configurations, and you can roll it out to everything. And flood the market again, the way they flooded the end of 2020 with or 2019 with monosynths. I have a feeling that they're going to eventually flood the market with polysynths.
Probably.
But that reusable sort of engineering or reusable chassis concept, I mean, Sequential or DSI did the same thing, right?
Yep.
The OB6 and the Prophet. It makes sense. I mean, why over-engineer things multiple times, especially when you're a small shop, right?
Yeah, the way that you set up note stealing, it's complicated, and in different companies implement that in different ways, or patch that kind of stuff. But once you've done it, you've done it.
Which is interesting because, and we're gonna talk about that in a few minutes. The the Poly-N Medusa, you can kind of choose how you want it to steal voices.
Yeah, there are a few synths that allow.
That's clever,
Yeah, there's a few synths that they have different modes that let you decide how it's going to work.
Yeah, I like it.
In fact, I think the OB8 that we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, or 2 episodes ago, has something similar for how you choosing the note stealing as well. Especially because it was kind of it was one of the first polysynths, so they kind of had to invent how it was going to work. Yeah.
The Matriarch has an interesting mode. So the Matriarch is the first paraphonic synth that I've ever had. So maybe this is only interesting to me because I don't know things about things. But it has a mode where if you want to set each oscillator to a different waveform or something, and they call it round robin mode. And so each time you play a different key, it picks a different oscillator to play it with. So you can get this sort of pseudo randomness coming out of it, which is pretty neat too. And if you depending on whether you have the multi-trigger on or off for the filter, you can get some really interesting sort of note stealing behaviors on it as well.
Yeah, I've seen people do that with their Prophet Rev 2. Something similar using an LFO to do that.
Yep. And that's something you can do with the OB8, where because every time you hit a note, you can have it. You can just go. It can go to the next sem, because it's 4 to 8 sems, and so if you're not in unison, then it's round robining them. So yeah, and if everyone's programmed different, which they almost always are accidentally, then yeah, so you get that. But what makes the OB8 interesting is when you do it where the sounds are very different, especially in unison mode. Oh yeah. And that's where Arturia fell apart in theirs, is that it didn't. Arturia's sem, it's just one sem, and so you can't have 2 sems. They do have a mode where you can kind of add separation for unison detuning, but not for completely different. And so you don't get that layering effect that makes the 4 voice or the 8 voice so interesting.
Interesting.
So if you've ever had a Roland 1080 where you anything from that architecture line, the sounds are usually 4 sounds layered, and they can be completely different layers, but that's what gives it that richness to it.
It's like detuning your saws. so to speak.
Well, except for two might be saws, but like the third one might be a triangle or something else, or it could be a piano sustain if it's because it's a Rompler, so it could be anything.
I will say I actually like the sound of paraphony, and I think in the right contexts, it just sounds really beautiful to me. I don't know, something about it. It's different than polyphony to my ears, for sure.
Absolutely, especially if the trigger on the filter is not multi-triggered, like if it only hits on the first, it gets placed down, and so then any subsequent notes you play just wind up coming in like wherever the filter is. You get some really weird effects on it. I think so. For my money, the Matriarch is my favorite synth that I've got, and it's just, I don't know. It is sort of in the same way that the Subharmonicon or some of the other the semi-modulars are. It's sort of like endlessly inspiring and fun.
It's cool.
Control-Delete has a question in the Twitch chat. Thinking about getting an Arturia Mini Brute 2S as a partner to my Theramini. Thoughts?
Ooh, the Mini. I played a little bit with the Mini Brute 2S, but not like hardcore. I used to have a Mini Brute back in the day, and I sold it because it didn't really sit well in anything I was working on.
The 2S is the one with the pad sequencer,
which I'm fascinated by.
Yeah. I had the Micro Brute at one point. If you like that Steiner Parker sound, you like that sort of edginess, I would suggest that they listen to those demos and really pay attention to those oscillators or the filters, I should say, because that's really where the magic is. If you like that sound, I think their products have matured probably by the 2S, and it's probably much better than the original Micro Brute I had, and even the Mini Brute that you did, Andrew. But so yeah.
I think I had the Micro Brute. That's the one that had the 6-point patch bay in the top right?
Yeah, super small with the patch bay. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think they sound really good. And I think the advice to go listen to the oscillators, especially with the filter wide open, and see what the brute factor I'm assuming it's got that brute factor knob like the other ones had, but
that Lizer brute factor.
I wound up selling mine too because it kind of wanted to take it's so big. Mm-hmm. If you want to play it by itself, you could do, I don't know, I guess if you were into I don't know, maybe some kind of something closer to techno where you wouldn't have a whole lot of instruments going at one time,
or drum and bass, or minimalism.
Yeah.
Or solo.
Just solo tiny instrument. There's a lot of places where it would work. For me, I was sort of in the same place, where I was trying to mix it with other things, and it wants to be so big.
I think that.
So I
think also the thing to keep in mind is that Control-Delete is asking about it as a partner to the Theramini, which in itself is a very expressive solo instrument. And what would I pair with it? Because I have a Theramini. What would I pair with that would actually probably be more like an SVSG, like a string machine.
Yeah.
Or
I could see using a Mark 1 Analog 4 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
fucking a piano, because everything that every amazing theremin performance I've ever heard has a piano accompanying it.
Yeah.
Well, you could get yourself a strike fet to go along with.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. So I used to make a similar argument for virtual analog compared to analog. Virtual analog often sits well in a mix and stays where it's supposed to be. And a lot of times analog will just overwhelm, especially an older analog that's kind of rough and out of tune. It can when you want it to just be like a drum machine and one drum bass, one bass sound or one overwhelming sound, it's hard to beat with analog. And these brutes are called brutes for a reason. So they really do want to overpower. But if you just want that one sound, then it might be the way to go. But like everybody here is saying, if you want to blend in a mix and be in a certain position, it might not be great for that unless you're going to put it through a bandpass EQ. in your mixing stage.
And the theremin is such an instrument that's based upon expression and things like that. And to me, at least, I feel that something like the mini brute and stuff like that would override that. If you're doing like some very delicate movements and stuff like that, and really exploring like the tonal scales and stuff like that, then you have the micro brute or the mini brute, farting its way across it, and you're just gonna like lose that whole thing.
Is the theremin the one with the like mid-century sort of weight?
Yeah, it's the one that has it has a built-in tuner in it, and you can actually actually set it for scales and stuff like that. So it's a good way.
We used it
and stuff like that.
Yeah, we used it for RPM the first time, didn't we? Yeah, I think I was soloing and you were playing along in theremin or something crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess it comes down to what do you want to do with this combination Control-Delete?
Yep. You'll get 4 different opinions because there's 4 people talking to you right now.
Yeah. But we all kind of agree that it's an overpowering synth. So but sometimes that's great and it's exactly what you want.
Absolutely.
So it depends on what your intention is. But it's a great synth. It just depends on what you're trying to do.
I was remarkably impressed by like how good mine felt. And it's been a long time since I've had it, but I remember, the knobs on all the Arturia stuff feel really good. The key bed on it felt probably like better than it should for how much it cost.
That was Eric Hartman that designed the hardware on that, right?
Oh, Axel, you mean?
Axel Hartman.
Axel, that's what sorry.
Eric Hartman was a different person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
That being said, interesting.
It's interesting. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a French sort of DIY modder guy who got them making that thing. Like Arturia based it off of his original designs. I can't think of his name.
I remember. I know what you're saying.
But so I mean, they were really making kind of a departure because I owned the Origin, which was a completely different animal. It's kind of a one-off weird thing, really, for them. But that was really an interesting move for them to do that. To move to, I mean, they have all these soft synths, which obviously people love them or hate them, or they tolerate them or whatever. I happen to like them.
I love them.
Yeah, I really like them too. To me, I'm a very visual person, and I think they really nailed that. I know that may sound a little vain, but I do like them. But honestly, it was an interesting move for them, and I think it really paid off in the long run.
They did really well. That's why. If they'd done it poorly, it would have blown up in their face. But they came out with great synthesizers that people love.
This also really helped start up the entire affordable monosynth revolution that hit.
That's true.
That came about right around the same time that the Minilog came about, which was Nick, the little 4-voice analog synth.
Hey, don't leave out the Akai Timberwolf, man. Come on.
Please forget about the Akai Timberwolf immediately.
Well, that was one of the coattails that came out because of that whole thing. But that was a huge thing all of a sudden. That was where it was at.
Yeah.
Before it went to wavetable and then FM, and then I don't even know where the hell we are right now. Granular sampler? I don't know. What's the new thing right now? Is it vector synth? Because everything.
I guess the hot terms are wavetable and polyrhythm.
Well, I know wavetable's been a hot name for a couple of years now. Maybe the pandemic made it pause, so we're still in wavetable mode because everything has wavetables now.
Well, Yeah. I think digital is maybe a broader brush to paint that with, because FM is definitely making a weird comeback too, and so
I think a lot of FM is that they finally figured out a reasonable interface for. Like, I got the Op6 a while ago, and
you like it?
I do. It's very usable, and in the same way that you can sit down with a subtractive synth and just sort of like twist on that and push on that until it sounds interesting, you can get there with the Op6. And the other thing that I've really liked about it is that, well, I guess the thing that I found, for me at least, very difficult about FM was I didn't feel like when I twisted a knob on FM, sort of like on Dexet or in FM8 or something like that, like when I changed something, it didn't really like teach me what was happening. and it didn't feel repeatable in some way to me. And on the Op6, whenever if I have, this operator pattern set up, I can twist this one and it always does the same thing. Like it winds up just making more sense. I don't know. I think it's a great synth.
Yeah. I mean, FM has just always been like the giant Pachinko machine in the sky,
Yes.
I had a DX7, the infamous DX7. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I had some really nice bass patches that I came upon by pure friggin' accident. Like 99.9% of everything else it did was pretty much shite. So.
Yeah, I think like when Electron put out the Digatone, that's when people realized that you can make FM synths that don't sound like either Dionne Warwick Bell sounds or complete and utter garbage. Like they made FM controllable, which has always been kind of the big challenge. So it's been.
I know that Law and Order electric piano is a special place in my heart, right? Man. Come on.
Very good.
For me, front 242 basses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Definitely. But I mean, so having that ability to bring those controls in there, and even like for want of a better term, kind of like lowering the choice by like we don't need 12,000 operators. That's just that way lays madness.
Yep.
But like with the Op6 and then that kind of thing, I'm actually really curious about the Op6. I just got the wave state and I really like the form factor.
Yeah,
I wish they had a 49 or 61 key version of the Op6 because I would totally do it. I just don't. It sounds counterintuitive, but I don't have a spot for a small synth.
It is a weird size. I will say, like, I don't know if it's probably not visible because my head's in the way. It's in the middle there.
Is that a prologue underneath that?
It is a super hard one to fit on a synth stand. Yeah. It is. I don't know. I'm going to say it is within half of an inch of not being able to fit on this one or being too small and needing some sort of like panel underneath it like I've done on the top where I've got a hunk of wood sitting there holding stuff up. It is, I feel you on that. Like it is actually sometimes harder to find a spot for a small synth, especially one that you can't rack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm digging the form factors of those. And yeah, the FM I guess is the current FM versus wavetable who wins in a fight. Yeah, it's interesting to see that stuff. Anyway, I'd completely lost my train of thought. Look at me go. Tangents is working. Our last bit of news is, speaking of FM, is that the Polyend Medusa firmware 4.0 came out of nowhere and was released today. I'm interested in that because I am an owner of a Polyend Medusa. It is such a fun, weird synth to play with, and the 4.0 they went ahead and added FM to it.
Wow.
And 3-operator again. Jeff, you're talking about how weird that is. They added a 3-operator FM to this thing.
Yeah, that's actually me talking about caustic.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. But just
the problem with caustic though is that you only have one waveform, which is sine waves. So 3-operator would be fine if you had additional waveforms.
Yeah. So this now has an FM synth mode, and for those that don't, the Medusa is it was a synth that was put together by Polyend and Dreadbox. And those two companies got together and made a baby, and that was called Medusa. And it has 3 analog voices, it has 3 digital voices, now it has 3 FM voices as well. It has wavetable. It has a grid-based sequencer that each of those steps on the grid you can adjust anything on there and like have that parameter lock kind of thing, like on the Electron pieces of gear. But you can also switch the sequencer over into almost like a motion sequencer kind of thing. Well, while the sequence is playing, you can play these keys and you can have everything like adjusted per key note. And as the sequencer is going, you're actually just playing the weird adjustments and stuff like that you do to it. It has a ridiculous modulation table. You have like 6 LFOs. And then you also have like your 4 envelopes that you can also assign as LFOs as well. So you can loop your envelopes and stuff like that too.
Does it use the grid for that? Does it use the matrix grid for modulation?
You can use the matrix grid for modulation as well. But the thing is like a 1 knob per function device as well. So you get a lot of the features right into there.
Nice.
There's very little menu diving on this thing and stuff like that. It's just a fun, weird piece of gear. I don't use it enough, but every time I sit down and play with it, it's just such a joy to play with.
Well, you want to talk about matches made in heaven? I mean, the Dreadbox oscillators are so great. That stuff sounds so great. The Aerogos, I remember when it first came out, the first version of it. I think I watched that demo more than anything. The Sonic State demo of that thing. It was just so good. Even with the wonky, unpredictable delay, I was like, that is so nice.
Yeah, Dreadbox has a certain sound to it, and it's always kind of like, I think we once compared it like a windy night in East Berlin kind of thing or something like that. That's kind of how it feels to us. I love their effects. Their effects are always just like a little gritty and a little bit dirty and stuff like that. I have their
the modulars.
Yeah, like their white line units and stuff like that are just they just have like I have a reverb and it just sounds a little dirty, and like the delay is a little grungy sounding, and it just adds so much character when you're using those kinds of things and stuff like that. And they're all mono, which is kind of weird for like a reverb or a delay, because you want your delays to be huge. And it's just like this mono delay. It's like, fuck you, I'm just gonna make this sound repeat, and it's gonna get dirtier. That's basically what it is. And then they came out with their color lines stuff too, and I have one of those things as well. I don't remember which one it is.
What was that unit they came out with not long ago? It was like a
no pass.
What's that?
The no pass filter.
Oh.
No.
I love the no pass filter.
Just kidding.
It was like a desktop looking
tracker.
That's the Polygon tracker.
No, it was the desktop effects unit that Dreadbox came out.
Oh, Dreadbox.
I can't remember its name. It was like kind of like mocked up to be like a synthwave kind of machine, like with the colors. Yeah.
Look it up real quick.
So John Haynes just wrote in the chat, they started out by doing guitar pedals, so they're probably pretty good at doing effects.
That makes sense to me.
I wonder if
and most guitars are mono, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, the Typhon.
Some guitar effects go stereo, but it's typically
after the guitar.
You typically wind up splitting the mono signal and just giving it 2 paths out for like a stereo reverb or delay.
Yep, you're right. John Haynes, the Hypnosis.
Hypnosis, yeah.
That's the one we were thinking about. Yeah, thank you for that. But yeah, and Polygon. Yeah, Polygon does their own little things as well that are kind of weird too, like the tracker, which I have one of those too.
They just announced some stuff on that today. They're doing like artist collaborations. Yeah, you
get them, and they're like different colors now, and they have like different sound packs in them and stuff like that. It's a fun, weird way of thinking about sequencing and stuff like that. I like it. I haven't quite cracked everything that I want to crack into it yet. I just need to sit down and play with it. But every time I sit down and play with it with the later firmwares, they actually have video games on them now too. So a video game on it instead. But what's funny is that the thing is it's literally just running Android OS. Yeah.
Weird.
So going back to what Kreestof was saying earlier about all this technology on your phone. Well, now they're just taking the phone technology and turning them into synthesizers. Which is just kind of like, what?
That's kind of like the Critter and Guitar-y way too. Like everything that they have is a Raspberry Pi that they've done all kinds of shenanigans to and put in an awesome box.
I had the organelle for a while. Couldn't crack it. It wasn't my style, so I ended up selling it. And I remember.
Yeah, I don't have any instruments. I have the IZ, which I think is just like a hell of a lot of fun. But yeah, the organelle sort of like never set off that itchy part of my brain.
It's really cool, and pure data is a really interesting way of like developing for it and stuff like that. If you're a developer, and I'm not, I got a book on it, and I ended up selling it as like a bundle. Like you get the book with the
yeah.
And the dude was really like, the organelle is cool, but I really want that book.
It looked to me like some kind of like steampunk Alan Turing stenographer's machine. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like the steampunk like OP1.
Yeah.
Like the wood buttons on it and everything like that.
Yeah, I like the wood buttons. I was just like touching them on the eyes here. They're sort of like faintly loose
they're like rattly
in their
and shit like
sockets,
that. You
and
pick up and shake it.
Yeah, like it rattles around, and it's kind of got a certain charm to it. That's good.
Oh yeah. So then they also turned on the Medusa. They've also enabled the ability for it to take MIDI change, like program changes and stuff like that, which they didn't have before. And it's one of those synths that is fast enough where it'll change, pretty quickly. I think there's I think it's an FPGA chip in there.
Nice.
Which is, I think the best example I've seen of FPGA in action was when they were showing how to use the Peak as a drum machine, the Novation Peak. Have you ever seen that video before when Calc was doing?
Oh, I have.
Where it's like he was just like literally, because it's it's only a single voice. He was changing the patch per step, so he had like a kick and a hi-hat and a snare. And then he cranked it to 300 BPM, and the thing just kept on doing it without any problems. It was just like flipping patches, like.
That's wild.
And just like that's just insane. You think about like back in the day when my Z1, I'd load up a patch and come back with a cup of coffee, and it's about done, kind of thing. It's just crazy.
So speaking of FPGA synths, the best one I've heard, Jeff sent me a link to a while back, and that's the Udo Super 6.
Oh yeah.
And for soft synth videos, like demo videos, the best I've seen were for that synth. They're amazing. So it's just fun to watch this guy just like explore the joy of synthesis through it.
Yeah.
He worked for Modal, or he was a contractor at Modal, because he's the one that did the Modal 008, I think, which is their big analog poly that.
John Haynes
I don't think
mentioned that the small key corgs from the California development team are all based on an industrial Raspberry Pi module-based platform. So like the WaveState, the Op6, the ModWave, and everything like that are all based on that same platform.
No kidding.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
I didn't know that.
Me either.
I imagine that they're basically building shields for like the Raspberry Pi that are proprietary.
Probably.
And it's probably like running the OS features off of it, and then it's controlling the synth that's on that shield.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Well, that's got to keep costs down. That's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, those synths are pretty affordable. Like the WaveState was, and I know the Op6 is not that expensive for what it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of makes sense because there's a hell of a long loading screen. I don't know if it is the same thing on the Op6, but there's a hell of a long loading screen on the WaveState.
Oh no, it's actually like, I mean, it's not instantaneous or anything, but it's I would say it is not appreciably slower than the Prologue 16.
Okay, because this is like it's about a 7-second load time from when I power it on compared to like some of the other stuff that I have. I'm like,
maybe it's something about the WaveState stuff itself.
Possibly.
Yeah, it could be like
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be preloading a bunch of those wavetables.
Yeah.
Is that the Prologue 16 you have on the bottom rack there?
Yeah, there's a Prologue 16 and the Op6, and then 6 of the Roland Boutiques that I have not yet done this for, but I'm planning to build an It's like a synthwave box basically, and I'm planning to build an arcade cabinet because of the wood shop, and turn it and do a graphic arcade cabinet that are just like very synthwave, and turn that into sort of like a gig rig for playing out.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Super jealous. That's awesome.
It should be fun. But I got the Op6 to go with that, so that'll be paired up with it.
Yeah, the Prologue 16 or even the 8, I feel like it doesn't get enough love. I picked it up for pretty cheap, used, and I love it. It actually fulfills a lot of spaces for me with the 12 dB filter. Can get real Oberheim if I wanted to, but it's got all kinds of other cool features that make it awesome.
Yep. I've heard people kind of rag on it for not having as much modulation as some of the other synths, I guess, in the price category. But I don't know, that's never bothered me about it, because I feel sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like somebody described a Juno to a modern synth manufacturer.
Right.
And they just sort of like told them about it without giving them any specs, and they're like, okay, I guess like go build it now. And that's what you got. But I feel like it does a lot, and it sounds very good.
I think the oscillators and the filter, you get that sort of paradigm where it's like I can modulate a million things. So I'll compare like the Prophet Rev 2 to the Prophet 6, right? Prophet 6 I can't do as much with, but the basic mechanics sound really, really good, right?
Yeah.
And this is a case where it's different enough and sounds so gosh darn good that I'm not super depressed that I can't like modulate, the power input with the, modulation wheel. I don't really, it's fun.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's a good synth. I'm surprised that so many people have actually gone after, because I had a Minilog XD before I got this, and then I realized like the limitations of the Minilog XD were just too much, and I'm actually kind of surprised that more people don't go for the Prolog over the Minilog, because especially the Prolog 8, like it isn't that much more expensive,
right?
And it is so much better. And if you look at like, I don't know, like synth per dollar in the Prolog 16 versus the Minilog XD, it's like, I don't know, like I guess you have to have the money to spend on the thing, but the like value for dollar on the 16 is, I think, crazy as compared to the rest of a lot of Korg's line.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to note is the 16 isn't just double the voice, but you get their little warm analog compressor in there, which I think is a real nice touch.
Yeah.
And it's bitemporal.
Yeah, which is super cool, because you can layer, because they do have their own digital oscillator, which is, if you're a developer, you can, program stuff in.
Right.
I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this line. I know the drum log is supposed to come out this year. Have similar interface and features, so I'm curious.
Yep. That one does look intriguing.
I think we hit all the news.
Well, so if we're running out, I had another news story that's probably not that interesting for everybody, but for anybody who has an iPhone or an iPad, there's a synthesizer. It's called the Synth One. Now there's two synths called the Synth One, but this one's called Audio Kit Synth One, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's a wonderful synthesizer, and they just released a free book for getting to know how to use it and how to how to deep dive with it. It's not available for Android. It's never going to be available for Android, and I wish it was a VST, but I love the sound of this synth. I wish I could use it in other places.
Sorry, I was just trying it.
I think it has great oscillators. I think it has great filters, and it's absolutely free.
It's also open source.
Yeah.
Yes, if you have an iOS device, you can download this and play with it. And now there's a book that you can download that'll help you get more out of it and learn about synthesis.
It's a book that's just about synthesis, and they use examples with the Synth One.
Yeah.
Hey, Kreestof, do you follow that guy Jakob Hack? He's a Swedish guy, Hack Attack. Check him out, because his entire universe is making music on mobile devices.
Okay.
Specifically iOS.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
So yeah, my main phone's an Android, so it just leaves me kind of dust. I have an iPhone that I use for playing a video game, but that's about all I do with it. And it's like one of the it's a 5C, right. So it's tiny. So it's really hard to use these interfaces on. Like the Synth One really wants a bigger phone or tablet, and I don't have an iPad.
Yeah, it wants an iPad for sure.
I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
It is a great synthesizer. I've used it quite a bit, and I am really impressed with the quality of the sounds that you can get out of it. I mean, It sounds better than some hardware synths that I've had.
Yeah.
I like the fact that because I was going through that book and just kind of looking through everything and stuff like that. I like that they literally are just kind of like putting this out there for folks to learn this stuff. It reminds me there's a program called Centorial. I don't know if anyone's heard of that or not. But
I think I've heard.
It's literally a program that shows you how to play with synthesizers. It shows you how to it trains your ear for understanding the difference between like a sawtooth and a triangle wave and a sine wave and triangle wave and all that stuff. And it teaches you step by step how to program synths. And it has a little synth in it as well that you can dump into, use as a VST and everything like that too. And it's just like a really clever way of doing that. But it's also like $100. So this is kind of nice because it does a similar kind of thing, in book form, obviously. So it doesn't give you but it uses, because it's written by the people that have developed the synth, that they can, refer those things back and forth. And I really like that.
That is cool. For anybody else who's looking for just a really remarkably strong resource for learning about synthesis, Korg, I don't know if they only recently republished it, but it became available on their site again. The original ARP 2600 manual for download. I think it popped up when they did the announcement back at NAMM for the 2600 compact. And the manual for the ARP 2600 is a course on synthesis. And they point out that like, oh, by the way, you do have this synthesizer now, and like, here's where you do that button on it. But like, it's just a course in synthesis, and it is remarkably good.
Yeah, I've heard about that synth book before.
Have you seen the? I know it was on our list, Andrew, but they just finally released the MS-20 full-size key.
Oh, did they?
I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, I caught it on Anderton's because Europe for Korg stuff for some reason seems to be a little bit before we get stuff. But they have like a sort of a blue version of it, full-size key MS-20. I'm not a huge fan of the MS-20, but it was cool to watch. And when I say I'm not a fan of it, I don't dislike it. I just don't know a ton about it.
Has anybody here used the original MS-20?
What's that?
Has anybody here used the original MS-20?
I have played with one.
Because I've used the reissue. Jeff's friend Tony had one, and I loved it, but I didn't think I have a feeling it sounded a lot better than the original MS-20. I've never played with an original MS-20, so I don't know how authentic that.
I heard they can be noisy. Yeah. I mean, that's.
I think that some of that's just like age and dust and everything like that inside the thing. I've played with an original MS-20, and I've heard the newer MS-20s, and yeah, there are a little bit of a difference, but I think that's just mostly just a lot of like manufacturing improvements over the years and stuff like that.
And age, I mean, like capacitors and everything else.
I'm not worried about that kind of difference, but whenever I bought like MS-20 samples, I was like, these aren't that great. And I guess a lot of people use them for just making their own boring sounds because they didn't make the sounds I would have made. Because the sounds I got out of this reissue, I loved it. It's like, now I understand the appeal of this synth.
Yeah. It's interesting how many people have used it, especially in the UK. It was super popular.
Oh, yeah.
For like, forever, really.
Yep.
From like trip hop to synth pop to you name it.
God, yeah. Real quick, I want to back up on the Medusa firmware update because I just checked something, and apparently they also just discontinued the Medusa. So
what?
So
that's
wild. April Fool's joke?
Huh?
Is that an April Fool's joke?
No, this is on Synthtopia. This is the top story on there. They just said Polygon Medusa updated with new 6-voice FM synth engine and discontinued.
Wow, that's a hell of a mic drop there.
I know, right? I just looked over. I'm like, what? The company says that Medusa has played a very special role in Polygon's growth and maturing, and its maintenance and technical support will be continued. Which is, I mean, granted, it took them 2 years to come out with a new firmware because they put one out in 2019 and then that was it. I think they did like a minor update in 2020 at the beginning of it.
I guess adding those FM synths really broke somebody's brain.
Yeah, maybe. 6-voice, 3-operator digital FM synth engine, reworked pitch, bend, and glide, better channel per voice mode, added MIDI program change, LFO synchronization with MIDI clock, and additional bug fixes, or all the stuff that they changed in there. So it's like they just they're just wrapping it up, I'm guessing.
Or somebody just rage quit.
Possibly. I mean, it's a very unique device. Maybe the deal between Polyend and Redbox, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's
kind of a hard model to sustain, right? I mean, look at the Tempest was another situation where, you know.
Well, and we even, I mean, hearing what Dave Smith says versus hearing what Roger Lynn says about the Tempest is interesting. Because they both.
Do you still have yours?
No, I sold it.
You still have? Yeah, because man, I just checked recently and they are skyrocketing in price. Yeah, ever since they discontinued it officially.
Sold it more than what I paid for it. I bought it new.
So crazy.
But yeah, I mean, if you hear the way Dave Smith said, this is like, you know, we did what we could, and that's that. And the way Roger Lynn says is like they gave up too quickly, you know. So.
Yeah.
But that's it's like what you were saying earlier, Kreestof. It's one of those drum machines that the synth engine's far more interesting than what the drum machine does.
The RM50 is like that from Yamaha because it's got a filter, so you can program bass sounds with it. You know, and fully program them instead of it just being a Rompler with no adjustments whatsoever, like most Boss drum machines.
Well, it's like the firmware update on the analog rhythm that added that whole bass synth in the thing. So there's this bass.
Yeah. Oh, the dual VCO stuff. Yeah.
VCO thing is just the dual VCO is just.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've beaten our episode of Tangents into the ground enough for tonight. Thank you all for coming.
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, definitely. Welcome to another typical episode. Thanks to John Haynes for helping us out with some news information and stuff like that. Always good to have you on the chat. All the new folks on here, Control Delete, thanks for the questions. Silver Point Despair, congratulations again on winning. You are a winner in my book, always. You all are. Once again, we are on every 2 weeks. So I'll actually get the right date next time.
On Wednesdays, never on Thursday. If the date says Thursday, the date is a lie.
True. Fucking moron. So our next episode is going to be on April 21st.
In theory.
Well, no, I'm looking at it as a Wednesday. I'm looking at a calendar right now.
All right. The 21st it is.
Yes. In the meantime, every Thursday, Kreestof will be doing his DJ show, Spite Club. So join the Spite Club. Go follow him. Always a good time. I will be doing a set for 420 at 3:20 p.m. Eastern. Doing an hour-long set for that, and I'm sure that we're doing another Synthfest next month because that'll be the 1-year anniversary for Synthfest. So yeah, that's what we got going on as far as that's concerned. Jeff, you got any streams or anything like that coming up?
No. I don't do anything. I just talk about doing things.
Plenty of
you just released.
You just released an album.
You just released another album and a single. Yes. So you keep releasing stuff.
Okay, I don't do things that are live. I managed to do one live stream.
There.
Maybe one day. I plan on doing something one day.
You should. It's fun. Kids love it. Come and do Synthfest one day. Woo!
That would be great. I'd love to.
Last one was 4 days long. Before that, we did 303 Fest, and that started on the Wednesday and went to the Sunday, so that was like a 5-day festival. Oh my God. It's a lot of noodles.
It's a lot.
Apparently the channel points collection button stopped working. Good job, Twitch. I forgot. I need to see if I can pause those. Twitch, because there's some buttons on my stream that probably wouldn't really work. Like I'd have to stop and read a book to people. Because I have a reward for me to read to them, as well as like.
Yeah, when I click on it, it looks like all your rewards are disabled.
Oh, okay, good. That'll teach them. It says that I think the whole button thing stopped working for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see who's on that we can raid to.
Okay. Oh, wait. I think I got... all right. Let me give you the... I'm going to post the link to the 2600 man next to Silver Point Despair.
Oh, cool.
Bam.
Thanks, Silver Point Despair. Thanks for the exploding me head. John Haynes, I can't resonate right now. I don't have any synthesizers to resonate with. I can turn this one. Okay, I'm resonating. There you go. All right, so let's see here. Let's have the house vote here. We have the owls, literally owls, in an owl farm. Mr. Horologist.
There's also stop sign cam.
Everyone's favorite watch repairman. I love this guy. He has 149 people watching him repair watches right now. Dexter Chaco, he's playing video games. Graceful Bard, she's an amazing musician, does all improv stuff, beautiful voice. There's some ASMR stuff. Purple Bee TV's doing some weird video things. Where are we gonna go, kids?
Who's the artist? The improv person?
Graceful Bard.
Beautiful voice. Yeah, let's do that.
We're gonna go and raid the Graceful Bard then. So again, thanks y'all for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll set up the raid. You'll discuss.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching. And before we raid, I just want to thank my friend Jeff for joining us tonight.
Thanks for hanging out with us
tonight. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was a fun time. Yeah.
Great fun.
Adding people to the show more and more until everyone hates us.
Or joins us, right? One or the other.
The entire audience will be on the show. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right. Bye, everybody.